Hello and welcome to Bad Movie Beatdown. Now I have to admit today's episode is a little bit shameless. Why? Because I deliberately picked the movie because the sequel was coming out this week. I am of course talking about The Fast and the Furious, which as you will see is part of a tried and tested formula. Take it away, Professor Celluloid.
Thank you, Matthew. The experiment to achieve this movie is as follows. Fast vehicles plus sexy girls equals box office profits. Why? Because these movies really revs the engines of the young males. Of course, the earliest example is the Top Gun, which had planes and Kelly McGinn. So, now there's been a new wave of movies that are about the rush of fast Volkswagens and even faster women. And this is no exception. Back to you, Matt.
I couldn't have put it better myself. In fact, The Fast and the Furious was so successful, in fact, that it spawned several rip-offs and 3 sequels, the most recent of which is the only one to reteam the entire original cast. Hence the tagline, new model, original parts. Now some people might be a bit cynical to see the original cast come back together after 8 years apart, but I don't know. I mean, look at Vin Diesel's career. Oh. But how about Paul Walker? I'm sure he's doing just fine in straight-to-DVD land. Oh. Well, how about Michelle Rodriguez? This series practically made her name. I see. And as for Jordanna Brewster, I have absolutely no idea who you are. I think that speaks for itself. Have I talked about this movie too much before laying a beat down into it?
Yeah.
I thought so. Roll the clips. We open at a dock where we see a lorry being fitted with loads of electronic consumer goods. Gee, I have such a desire for Panasonic right about now. I hope I can buy a Panasonic Blu-ray player so I can connect it to my Panasonic HD TV with a Panasonic HDMI cable to boot. That would be great! We see a dock worker phoning someone and telling them about the shipment and what it contains.
Rogers on the side of the truck. Don't forget my share of the deal.
Where could this be leading me? Sure enough, that night the truck gets attacked by hijackers in fast cars who steal the shipment. Damn, and I won't be able to get my Panasonic Blu-ray player to fit my Panasonic HD TV and hopefully get a Panasonic HDMI cable to boot. The following day we see a car so lurid green that it probably glows in the dark. This is being driven by Brian, aka Paul Walker, who proceeds to have a pointless sequence to show us he can drive, baby! He then goes down to Toretto's, the only cafe/shop that looks like a car repair shop.
Every day for the last 3 weeks you've been coming in here and you've been asking me how the tuna is now. It was crappy yesterday, it was crappy the day before, and guess what? Hasn't changed.
I'll have the tuna.
No crust?
No crust.
Yeah, crust gives you freckles, you know. In the back we see Dominic, played by Vin Diesel. That woman you saw at the bar is his sister Mia, aka Jordanna What's-Her-Face. And soon the rest of the cast join us in garishly coloured cars. Letty, played by Michelle Rodriguez, Leon, Vince, and Jesse. Vince seems to get a bit pissed off at Brian's presence on the simple basis that he's been in all week ordering tuna sandwiches, and starts a pointless fight. Yeah. How do they expect customers if Vince is going to fight all the regulars? Dom is called in to break up this macho bullshit.
I'm in your face.
Yeah, and my face was in your mum last night. Oh!
Relax! Don't push it! You embarrass me!
Dom tells Brian not to come back.
Don't come around here again.
And as an added bonus...
You were just fired.
Well, it looks like Brian's going to be looking for a new job, right?
I told him good help is hard to find.
No. That night, Brian takes his putrid green car and takes it to the street race. He joins in on the condition that if he wins, he gets the money. But if he doesn't, he forfeits his car to the victor. He goes alongside several other racers, including Dom, who gets eyed up by several girls.
I smell skanks.
That's a bit harsh, Letty. You know, look at yourself, love. Already we're 15 minutes into this movie and I'm getting pretty sick of this goddamn hideously dated techno rock soundtrack that was everywhere at the time this movie was released. Thankfully not quite persistent anymore because we have actually developed some taste in the intervening years.
What the hell's going on around here?
Hey look, there's director Rob Cohen. Ouch. I know Mummy 3 tanked hard, but working at Pizza Hut? That's rough. Meanwhile, a girl makes an offer Ja Rule can't refuse.
But if you win, you get hurt too.
Whoa, objectifying women is like totally cool. Because that's all women are good for, right? Bit of high-speed motoring in the bedroom, hey, hey, hey.
You're gonna win. I'm gonna win.
Yeah, Brian, you don't seem very confident about that. Pointless CGI is cool. Brian's at the back of the pack, but not for long. Yeah, I don't proclaim to be an expert on cars, but isn't nitrous oxide supposed to give you a little boost? Not make you jump into hyperdrive like the Millennium Falcon? The boost moves him up to second, but there's a problem.
Shut up!
Brian, you might want to pay attention to that. It's got 3 exclamation marks on it. Told you. Brian takes the lead briefly, but Dom has nitrous oxide too. Gee, you think? Dom speeds past the finish line,
Winning the race.
I say race, it's more like who presses the nitrous oxide button at the right time wins. Also, aren't street races supposed to be 10 seconds long? This took up 2 minutes of screen time. I mean, I know there's dramatic license, but then there's just stupid. And I vote for the latter. Dom checks out Brian's car, which is pouring with smoke. Dom takes time out to gloat.
You never had me. You never had your car.
What is with that crowd? Hey everyone! Your mama's so fat, she ran off to a whale at SeaWorld! Oh!
Fuck you then.
But that insult session ends up being cut short by the imminent appearance of the cops, as everyone rushes back to their cars. Dom hides his car, but that turns out to be not such a good idea.
Stop right there.
It's a good thing he doesn't own a cafe/shop that's under his surname. That would make him ridiculously easy to catch, wouldn't it? Dom runs off on foot, but Brian gives Dom a lift to help him evade the cops. It's a good thing that Brian has a working car, in spite of the fact that it was spewing smoke out of the engine, and he apparently blew the piston rings on it. And in all likelihood, the suspension too. Since when did they start putting ramps in the middle of the road? The pair have a chat in the car about Brian's history.
Tucson, right? You'll find anything on the web, anything about anybody.
That's the truth. I actually went on the internet and looked up Doug's home address. Get your pens and papers out, future stalkers. Okay, the address is 123 Fake Street, Imaginary County, Chicago, Illinois, USA. You get that? I can't wait to meet him. But this scene has far too much talking or character development, so soon a group of motorcyclists swamp their car and force them into a Chinese restaurant. Gee, could this be an Asian gang? I love being right. Wait, no I don't. I hate it! It turns out the boys are on their turf, so what do? Shoot up the car until the nitrous oxide explodes. Alas, the boys end up having to catch a cab back to Dom's place, and what's happening inside? Partying! Lesbian smooches, hot half-naked chicks dancing. Who wouldn't want this? You know, I am getting the feeling this might be glamorising the street racing scene a little bit. But fear not, because the DVD is here to allay all our fears.
Hi, I'm Paul Walker, starring in The Fast and the Furious. All the racing stunts in our film were performed in a staged environment by professionals with years of training and experience. So with that in mind, Be smart, drive safe, and stay legal.
That's right, kids, stay legal. That way you won't be able to dance with the hot lesbian chicks at your own parties. It's like people realise that this movie was glamorising the street racing scene and just whip this PSA up. Oh, and even better, you can't skip the PSA! It loads up every time the DVD starts, and it disables your remote like those crappy piracy ads.
Professionals with years of training and experience.
Oh, and it's bad enough to have product placement in the film itself, but do you have to extend it to the DVD too?
This public service announcement is brought to you by Castrol Syntec.
In all fairness, at least it isn't Panasonic. The only one not engaging in the party is Letty, who is playing Gran Turismo by driving the wrong way. Dom asks some harsh questions to Vince.
This your beer?
Yeah, that's what you get for leaving Dom behind so you can party. He'll steal your beer. Dom gives Brian Vince's beer. I never would have guessed that Vince and Brian don't like each other. What with that fight earlier and all. The following day, Brian gets caught by the cops, who arrest him. I wonder what this means.
Shit, you put him on so tight.
I like realism.
Okay, so the point of arresting Brian was... It turns out Brian is an undercover cop who has been brought in to investigate Dom and his buddies about truck hijackings. The movie presents this like a swerve, even though it says so right on the back of the DVD case. I'm also betting the real reason why they didn't start off by showing Brian as a cop was because someone might have spotted the uncanny similarities the film has to the movie Point Break. Substitute surfing for street racing and you've practically got the same movie. Of course, Diesel's no Swayze. Walker's definitely a Keanu though. Brian owes Dom a car though, so he brings a completely destroyed one that they can repair into a speed machine. Of course. To fund this, Brian will compete at a competition called Race Wars in Arizona against other drivers. And this is the point where the movie gets boring. If you're going to be extreme, maybe you should keep the pace up because all the petrol heads in the audience are about to fall asleep. The cat's doing jack shit besides fill time, including talking without actually saying anything.
Muse, why don't you make us 4 iced cappuccinos, please? Come on.
Regular decaf, Sarge.
Decaf. I'm out of here.
Oh, what's this? Vince doesn't want to join in with the gang if Brian's there. Could this be paving the way for some sort of betrayal or turn?
You know, I gotta eat.
Well, that was pointless. Later, Brian investigates Hector under the lead by breaking into his garage, where he notices the tyres on the cars are the same as those used in the hijackings. But that doesn't turn out so well. Vince knocks out Brian and takes him to see Dom. Looks like someone's got some splaining to do.
I just went in there, and Hector is gonna be running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines.
You're gonna go around and check everybody's shit out? One garage after another?
Yeah.
Yep, that's an airtight excuse, isn't it?
You a cop?
Well, that solves everything. Maybe you should have checked on that internet he used earlier. Not only do they buy his excuse, but they actually join him to check in on the Asian gang. They find that not only do the cars have no engines, but they've also got the goods stolen from earlier. Hooray! It looks like I will be able to get my Panasonic Blu-ray player that will fit my Panasonic HD TV that will fit my Panasonic HDMI cable. And now I need a Panasonic mouth. But things get a little intense when the gang return on their bikes, forcing Brian and company to hide. The gang have also brought a friend with them too.
Look! We got no windows, do we?
They're invisible engines. They run on pure air. Brian then witnesses them torturing the guy until he gives them their engines. Brian reports this to his superiors the following day, but there's a problem.
Because all we have is behavior.
They have the DVD players in the workshop! That's some pretty hard evidence.
Remember I told you about the guy he nearly beat to death? Toretto did this with a 3/4-inch torque wrench.
But Dom's got an explanation.
That's my dad. A guy named Kenny Linder came up from inside in the final turn. He clipped his bumper and put him into the wall at 120.
You know, I have to say that Vin Diesel really does sell this scene. It does seem genuinely convincing, and that's one of the few things about this film I can honestly say that about.
I saw Linder about a week later. I had a wrench and I hit him. And I didn't intend to keep hitting him, but by the time I was done, I couldn't lift my arms.
Unfortunately, by making Dom a fallen angel, it's blatantly obvious now that he's going to be the hijacker. Meanwhile, the hijackers are at it again, so the Fuzz make a move against the Asian gang. Okay, fair enough, but Brian is heading the task force. Surely Dom and his gang would have noticed the suspiciously AWOL, right?
Yeah.
The DVD players were purchased legally.
Well, that was completely pointless, particularly since it was obvious that it wasn't going to be them. Who keeps purchased DVD players in their workshop anyway?
You got 36 hours to crack this bastard.
All kinds of family, Brian. And that's a choice you're gonna have to make.
Oh no! The undercover cop is caught between two worlds! What an original concept! So Dom has finally managed to turn that old heap of junk into a racing machine just in time for the big Race Wars event. Finally, the plot has started to move forward again! At the wars, Jesse bets his father's car on winning the race. His opponent, Johnny Tran, head of the Asian gang. Yeah, I don't believe that Jesse would partake in this at all. Isn't he the smart egghead of the group?
He's got more than 100 grand under the hood of that car.
Uh-huh.
Surely Jesse would know that, right? I mean, he's not stupid enough to race against Tran, is he? I mean, this makes no sense at all. There's no motivation for this to happen. Oh, right, because the plot says so. But, reckless idiot, Jesse races against Johnny and, of course, loses. Jesse then races off into the distance in order to keep his car. Roy realised he needed to get out of this movie quickly. One of the two. That night, Mia gets into a fight with Dom. As the rest of Dom's crew drives off, Brian takes his chance to reveal his cover to Mia.
I'm a cop.
Luckily, Mia is in a good mood.
You bastard.
Well, that went well. Luckily, Brian knows how to emotionally blackmail people.
Everything I ever said I felt about you was real. I swear to God. Please, Mia. Please help me.
Please, Mia, please, please! If I just keep saying please, will you pity me later? Please! Whilst Mia and Brian track Dom using his phone, Dom and his crew swap cars. There his associates express their doubts.
We shouldn't be doing this without Jesse.
Oh yeah, because he was the real smart one out racing Tran. So a few hours later, the gang try their hand at hijacking the vehicle, but these truckers are fighting back. Vince then takes his helmet off for no real reason and then pokes his head in front of the shotgun-toting driver. Does he want his head to be blown off? Letty goes over to distract him. Well, what did you think was going to happen? Dom tries to get Vince off the truck, but the trucker hits the brakes and swings Vince around the side of the cab in completely impossible fashion. I know he's attached to the wire in the cab seat, but he would not swing around like that. Unfortunately, the wire gets trapped around Vince's arm and cuts into it gruesomely. The trucker takes more pot shots and hits Dom's car. It looks like Vince is boned. But here comes the cavalry. Brian speeds up and jumps over to Vince on the truck. We then see a number of shots where it is blatantly obvious that Paul Walker is wearing a safety wire. Brian unwraps Vince and manages to get himself and Vince into the car. It's ironic, you see, because Vince hated Brian, and Brian is the one that saved his life. Oh, that would a winky-dink. Brian then proceeds to call for help. Unfortunately, that means blowing his cover.
Yeah, this is Officer Brian O'Connor.
And you might want to get another one because Dom's about to kick the living shit out of me. They get Vince into a helicopter and the rest of the gang ride off back into the city. Brian pulls up outside Dom's house.
Dom, put the gun down now! No more running!
I'm not running!
Where's Leon and Letty?
They're long gone.
And we never see them again. Bye!
Brian, I gotta find Jesse before they do.
Yeah, funny how this wasn't important to you around the time you were planning to hijack that truck, huh? Well, that's convenient. But dramatic implausibility strikes twice as Tran's posse show up on their motorcycles and oozing the shit out of the place, hitting Jesse and killing him. Well, that story thread resolved itself neatly, didn't it? Brian rushes after them in his car, but Dom has got another car, the one he helped build with his dad, and now he's unleashing the beast! Meanwhile, Brian chases the motorcyclist and they fire back at him, hitting anything but his car. Seriously, how can you hit cars on both sides of the road and not hit the car driving down the middle? The pair box him in, but here comes Dom to the rescue, in a mess of incoherent shots that seems like lazy editing. Brian, on the other hand, shoots Tran, causing him and his bike to crash into a wall. But Brian also spots his suspect is getting away.
You call 911!
Yeah, you might want to mention you're a cop too, because I'm pretty sure they all saw you shoot him. Brian catches up to Dom.
That railroad crossing up there is exactly a quarter mile away from here.
Guys? Excuse me, but why are you doing this? Surely with the police on your tail, you might want to, escape? So the pair race for absolutely no reason except for the fact that the plot says so, and what's more, the train's coming down the track, so not only are they racing for no real reason, but they may die for no real reason. Who needs logic? Uh-oh, something has broken in Dom's car. I hope that doesn't affect anything. And it didn't. Hooray for false tension! But then... Isn't it miraculous how that truck managed to pull out at that exact moment? Luckily, Dom is A-OK, but the police are coming. What is Dom gonna do?
I owe you a 10-second car.
Well, that was spur of the moment, wasn't it? You were trying to arrest him 10 minutes ago. Furthermore, isn't this just ripping off Point Break even further? I mean, it's bad enough you've pretty much stolen the plot, but you stole the ending too? You know, where the cop lets the bad guy free to have one last rush? And like that, it just ends. What happened to Vince? Mia, who was still at Dom's house. Let's in Leon. What's Brian going to face for letting a suspect free? Talk about sequel baiting. The best part is that the next film, Too Fast, Too Furious, only answers the latter of these questions. Luckily, Fast and Furious looks set to answer all those burning questions I'm sure we've held since 2001. Or not. But we do get an answer on where Dom escapes to in this post-credits tag. See you in Triple X, bitches! Although it isn't as bad as some of the heinous sequels it spawned, it does deserve this treatment for being so dull. I mean, you can't just have fast cars dictate the plot, there has to be something going on behind it. It takes itself too seriously and it's no fun. Paul Walker might need checking for termites judging by his acting, and the film is already heavily dated a mere 8 years after release due to its migraine-inducing soundtrack. The new movie, Fast and Furious, is being depicted as a return to form for the series. From terrible to just plain mediocre? Yeah, some comeback. Now if you excuse me, I need to go rev my engine. I'm Matthew Buck, beating down bad movies everywhere.